The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented.
Welcome to Wonderfully Made. I'm Amy Wellard with the Wildwood Lifestyle Center and Hospital, and today our topic in our Vibrant Health for Women series is cervical cancer. And with me today in the studio is Dr. Sherilu Fernandez. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Our subject, cervical cancer, is actually affecting 16,000, the statistics say, of women in America every year, with about 5,000 deaths. It's actually quite a very large problem for many women, and it's actually the third most commonly diagnosed cancer after lung and breast.
Yes.
So tell us, is it on the rise along with all the other lifestyle conditions, or is it being controlled?
Good news. Because of the use of the pap smear, Papa Nicolau smear you would call that, and making it readily available for everybody and educating people on the use of Papa Nicolau smear, the cervical cancer is caught early, and problems associated with early cervical cancer is caught earlier. So then you don't necessarily go into cervical cancer because you stop it at its beginning. So because of Papa Nicolau smear, cervical cancer seems to be coming down.
So can you tell us what is the pap smear exactly?
Well, the pap smear can be done in any other part of the body, like the buccal mucosa and other mucosa, you know. It's not right, but it is usually used down there for the cervix. They take a scraping of the cervix and or inside the cervix and the vaginal pool and smear it in a slide, and they stain it with a stain invented by Mr. Papa Nicolau. You know, that's why it's Papa Nicolau smear. And when you look into it, you see abnormal cells, if there were abnormal cells. And so it's like a screening test. It's a screening test to see whether you have abnormal cells, precancerous cells. But it's not really mainly, although it's used for as a cancer screening test, it is not. It does not only check for cancer; it checks for infections and hormonal imbalances as well.
So how effective is it at actually preventing death from cervical cancer?
It is really very effective because even if there are false negatives, you can catch cervical cancer because cervical cancer is a slow-growing cancer. Actually, 15 years before you have it. So if you have your cervical smear, even if you missed a year, if you do it every year thereafter, because of the slow growth of cervical cancer, you will catch it. The thing is, you have to have pap smears every year.
Okay, now I wanted to ask you that. You have to have pap smears every year if you are sexually active, or even if you're not?
As soon as you start being sexually active, or if you're not sexually active but you come into the reproductive years, maybe 18, 19, then you start having the pap smear.
So what is actually causing the cancer in itself? It's a virus that causes it?
Well, cervical cancer, majority of the time, it's a very 90+%, a very, very small amount of for cancer that's not caused by HPV. The majority of cancers are caused by human papilloma virus.
That's the HPV?
That's the HPV virus. That's what causes cervical cancer.
Okay, and most viruses manifest themselves in manifestations on the skin. Is that right, when it comes to this virus?
Yes, HPV actually is a type of virus that has several strains. You have even the little wart in your hand is HPV, you know, but there are different HPV strains that go to different parts of the body. And even in the cervix, you have different kinds of HPV strains, you have the low risk for cancer strains and you have the high risk for cancer strains. So you have different kinds of strains that you might have a wart even in the vaginal area, but you may not have cancer, depending on what strain you got.
Oh, okay. So just because you have a wart doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get cancer?
There is a probability. You might have both, but that means just you're not really sure what you have.
Okay, and you may have no warts at all and yet still be developing cancer.
And still have the cancer.
Now, in 2006, there was a vaccine that was approved to prevent cervical cancer. Can you comment on that?
Okay, yes, that is the vaccine Gardasil. It's recommended for young girls. I mean, as soon as they enter into their menarche, they do the Gardasil because maybe it's, because of the permissive society, they think the little girl at 13 would be active, sexually active. So maybe they're thinking to prevent this young girl from having cervical cancer later. However, because of the large amount, so many strains of the high-risk cervical HPV causing cancer, however, Gardasil has only the 2 most virulent strains.
Okay.
But there are over 12 of the most virulent strains. So Gardasil really is not covering everything.
Okay.
But the real thing really is supposed to be everybody's supposed to practice abstinence.
Okay, so that you basically summed up the complete prevention there.
Yeah.
Is
I'm sorry, not yet. But then.
But for married couples, it's really purity in marriage
Yes.
and outside of marriage. Faithfulness to one partner can really minimize, and that begins way before marriage. Preparing yourself to marry involves faithfulness and complete abstinence prior to marriage. So is this cancer specifically linked to sexual behavior?
Yes, because of the HPV, it is specifically linked to sexual behavior. But if you were somebody who was really pure, you were a lady who was pure, and you married a pure guy, somebody who has never had any sexual intercourse with anybody, pure person, pure you will never get,
It's wonderful.
The risk of developing cancer is very small, hardly no more. But even if you were a pure lady, but you married a guy who ran around earlier in his life, and even if he marries you, but he wasn't pure one time and he took it, he'll bring it to you and there's a chance for you to have it. However, if you take care of yourself, you probably won't get it.
And I suppose you could apply that to another stage in life. For example, if a wife dies of cervical cancer, the husband himself would be a carrier of the HPV and could pass that to a future wife?
Yes, she could.
Okay.
So then if it would be just fair for him to tell his wife that we should be both healthy in order for you not to get it.
Okay, so he could pass it on to her, but she doesn't need to actually get the developed cancer.
If she takes care of, because if you catch it early, you won't have it.
Right.
Because you can easily take care of it.
That's great. So what are the other risk factors that make some women or some socioeconomic groups of women more at risk than others?
First is poor socioeconomic status. Well, I don't want to talk so much on that. It speaks for itself. But you could say women who are from some 45 to 50, 60 years old, because before the early 60s, they had a drug which is DES, or diethylstilbestrol, that they gave to women who had signs and symptoms of miscarriage. So they would give this to a pregnant woman who was having threatened abortion, DES. It would apparently hold the pregnancy from aborting, but the little baby that was inside would be affected by the DES, and it would make her in the future prone to develop cervical cancer.
Really?
Yeah.
Was there anything that she could do about that later
Unfortunately, oh yeah, take care of herself and have pap smear.
Okay, wonderful. So how is cervical cancer manifest once it has got into the more advanced stages? What are the symptoms?
Oh, many times cervical cancer does not manifest itself, and it will only manifest too late. That's why I cannot overemphasize the importance of really having your pap smear regularly. It's asymptomatic for a long time. But if there were signs and symptoms that occur late, they would include abnormal vaginal bleeding. So the vagina bleeds between menses, or maybe you're already menopause and you start bleeding, or maybe after sexual intercourse you would have bleeding. This bleeding where you're not supposed to be bleeding is a very, very strong sign of cervical cancer. And sorry, you could have continuous vaginal discharge all the time, you know. Then you would have to always wear panty liners. The discharge could be clear and or copious, could be pink, brown, bloody, frank bloody, but they are definitely foul smelling. I could remember when I was in internship back years ago, when I was in my internship for early medicine, when I would go into the pavilion, the cancer pavilion, I would know that I was, even if I would blindfold myself, I would know that I was close to the cervical ward, cervical cancer ward. It's a specific smell that is just so cervical cancer. When I have a patient that comes into my office, I just know the whiff, the breeze that she brings. Oh, this smells like cervical cancer, and that's the discharge.
So has the cancer already spread to other areas?
Sort of, yeah, because it is already, depends on how it spreads. It can spread down or it can spread up, it can spread sidewise, but it is one of the manifestations. And menses also become heavier and longer than usual.
So how could you tell how advanced a woman is?
Oh,
what testing is there?
You have, first and foremost, you do the pap smear, okay? And the pap smear can catch whether you have the precancerous stage. The pap smear catches the precancerous stage. You call that dysplasia. Dys meaning abnormal and plasia meaning growth. So abnormal growth, dysplasia. So you have mild dysplasia, meaning 1/3 of the cervical lining is abnormal. You have moderate dysplasia, meaning around 2/3 of the lining of your cervix is affected or abnormal. And you have severe dysplasia, meaning the whole layer of the lining of your cervix is affected. It's severe. So you have all abnormal cells. It's just dysplasia, but you get one cell of this dysplasia, a patient with dysplasia, and you get a cell of from a frank cervical cancer. You look at it under the microscope, they are the same. So cervical cancer and dysplasia have the same kinds of cells, but the amount of cells, you know, you would say mild is 1/3, moderate is 2/3, and severe. It's like saying that you have your entire lining cancerous. They call that carcinoma in situ, just localized. Or maybe you could say stage 0 cancer, if you could say. It's just localized.
So when you talk about stage 0, that sounds really hopeful to me, because we often hear about stage 4 and 5. So at stage 0, this precancerous almost condition, is that curable?
Very curable. It is very curable.
So what are your chances of still being alive after 5 years of having...
Let's say you had severe dysplasia. You can have further tests. You know, you have the colposcopy. It's like a microscope that they put they examine your vagina, and they have a microscope that focuses on your cervix, and they can per se see how your cervix is affected. And then they know whether you can take out locally the area that is affected. You know, you call that the cone biopsy. So they make a cone. Inside is the apex, here is the base. They make a cone and take out the cervix like this, because there's some women they're scared. Yes, they have cervical severe dysplasia, and you can say cancer already, but it's just contained. But they still want to have kids. They don't want their cervix taken out. So you have your cone biopsy so that you still have your uterus. Or you can have your MRI or your PET scan or your CAT scan if you would want to see whether you have had spread around the
Okay. So let's talk about the different types of cancer cells, or rather the growth of the cancer cell, and the different facets to this disease process, and how we can conquer each facet with lifestyle.
Yeah, it is important that we again know our enemy. When we know our enemy, it's much easier for us to conquer the enemy. So in the management of cancer, we have 5 things to take into consideration. Cancer actually is a myriad of problems in your body manifesting as cancer, and mainly it's the gene that's affected by free radicals. Okay, free radical damage to your cell and or your DNA, causing abnormal cells. If it is a free radical, you fight it with antioxidants. Okay, so antioxidants, vitamin A, C, and E, and ashwagandha, an herb, and schisandra, another herb, and garlic, a very strong and potent antioxidant, which I really have an experience with. A friend of mine had a sister with stage 4 cancer, and she was given a short time to live. That's several years ago. And she's still alive now. What she does is she reeks with garlic. She finishes 1 pound of garlic a week. She 1 pound garlic a week, but she's alive.
Well, better to smell of garlic than be dead.
She still has a cancer there, but it has not cost her life. So that's for free radical damage. But then you have inflammation. Inflammation is like the gas that makes the cancer go and grow. So turmeric is one of the strong anti-inflammatory, and it's food besides. It's a spice. You don't have to go somewhere looking for it. It's in Walmart. There's turmeric in the spice section, and you can use turmeric, a lot of turmeric in your food. Then if your immunity, work on your immunity, because it will be the one to fight your cancer. Then we have this, what you say, angiogenesis. It's a big term. Angio meaning blood vessels, and genesis meaning growth. A cancer will not grow bigger and will not spread if there are no blood vessels that are feeding it. Okay? So if you have anti-angiogenesis, meaning you get food or substances that keep blood vessels from growing into it, the cells, of course, will die. No nourishment, and so they die. Well, you see, the cells per se will call for angiogenesis. Cancer cell is a rogue cell. It has a government of its own. That's why it will do what it wants to do, because it's not the same as the other normal cells. So this rogue cell calls for new blood vessels towards it. Praise the Lord, because turmeric is a very strong anti-angiogenesis agent. So if you take a lot of, it's been a lot of experiments are coming up, and studies are coming up that turmeric is very good and for anti-angiogenesis.
How would you actually take that turmeric? You just buy the culinary turmeric from the superstore and just add it to your food, or mix it in some milk and drink it, or?
The 1 to 2 teaspoons 2-3 times a day.
Okay.
Yeah, you could mix it. I found out that it tastes bad. It tastes bad, you know, the pungent smell and everything, and it makes your teeth yellow. But you can do things to keep your teeth from turning yellow. But anyway, if you put it in pineapple juice, it tastes good. But then you have to put it in a straw, a big straw, and straight down the back of your mouth so that it doesn't go to your teeth and stain it yellow. Okay. And all the good colors, the different rainbow colors of food, the berries with dark colors, the vegetables with dark colors, they're anthocyanin rich. They are anti-angiogenesis. Garlic is, again, fruits and vegetables, most of them have anti-angiogenesis. And the last one is telomere. Telomere is something to do with the end of the chromosome that tells the cell when to die. So cancer cells never die. They just grow and grow and grow and grow. Telomere really tells the cell when it should die. But then when you do exercise, you do all the natural remedies from nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, vitamin D, sleep well, trust in God, and you would help the telomere work properly and tell the cell, okay, let's die. And when the cell dies, it doesn't replicate. So you're hitting different ways to control your cancer that would be really giving you a chance to not move from precancerous to cancer.
And when you talk about exercise, what kind of level? Are you talking high impact, aerobic type exercise, or just consistent, maybe 5 miles walking a day at a gentle pace? Or
yes, it's important that you do not stress yourself when you exercise. So if you have never been exercising before, you don't climb Mount Everest. In other words, you push, you go slowly. First, you start with a mile and then 2 miles. Your body will tell you, because you won't be huffing and puffing. Initially, you would be, but then you walk. Let's say you're walking say I'm walking a mile and I'm going to walk it in 30 minutes. Okay, but next time I'm going to walk the mile in 15 minutes. So I'm going to walk 2 miles this time. And as soon as you have adapted to it, you're not huffing and puffing, you push to 3 miles in 30 minutes. You push to 4 miles in 30 minutes. Moderate, increase, but not pushing it too hard. Because when you, especially heavy, strenuous weightlifting, climbing Mount Everest, increases your cortisol, and cortisol is friendly to cancer.
So if the exercise is making you stressed, better not do it.
It's not going to do good for you.
Oh, that's great. So just the moderate, but the balance between the ease and the effort.
Yes.
So it is pushing you a little bit, but not overstrenuous.
No.
Now, what about the immune enhancers? Could you tell us a little bit more about the herbs that can really boost the immune system?
Oh, the one I know fairly well is pau de arco. Now, the pau de arco comes from south, and they're, aside from garlic, the ones that you have in your kitchen, your onions, your garlic, your ginger, your turmeric, they're readily available for you. You can get pau de arco. We were talking about
astragalus?
Astragalus, yes, golden seal, echinacea. You can do burdock root. Those are the
blood
ones
purifiers.
Yes, blood purifiers and immune enhancers.
Wonderful.
And okay, to be sure, always support your liver. When you're trying to keep your body at par, always support your liver, because your liver is trying to get rid of all the waste that your body is getting, the end products that your body is working and having its waste products. The liver will catch all that, and so help your liver detoxify.
With, for example,
you could say milk thistle or dandelion. Those are the most common ones that you would use.
Could I take dandelions out of my garden?
Sure you could, but it's the root.
It's the root. That's the hard thing to dig up. So maybe you're better to just buy the root from the herb shop.
You could.
Okay.
It's fresh. You're sure that it's organic.
And you've got the whole phytopharmacy in one.
Exactly, yes.
Polypharmacy. Okay, now you mentioned earlier about sleep. Now could you give us the physiology behind why it's important, if you have cancer, to get to bed early? And when we say early, what time do we mean?
Okay, we're counseled that 2 hours before midnight is equal to 4 hours after midnight. I know everybody has experienced that if they went to bed early, let's say 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, okay? When you go to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock, then you have a deep sleep, you wake up somewhere like 3 or 4 o'clock, and it feels like you're done. You have to wake up. Why is it so? It's like and you look at the clock and you say, hey, it's still 3 o'clock. I thought I had slept enough already. That means your body has recovered. Your body has been able to clean itself. Your body has been able to get rid of the toxins, and your body's ready to face another day. It's because at around 9 o'clock, or when the sun comes down, at 6 o'clock, let's just say, when the sun comes down, your growth hormone and your melatonin starts to increase. Now, melatonin is very important because it is the repair hormone.
So this will help you to repair some cells that are damaged by cancer invasion.
Yes, and the growth hormone also. Okay, it's balanced. You know, you have to get this one so that whatever trauma there is in your body, it can be repaired. Okay, so when you get enough of your melatonin and your growth hormone, which is only there prior to 12 o'clock, around before.
So no more late night internet surfing.
No, because so if you went to bed past 12 o'clock, you slept until 12 o'clock noon, and it seems like you've never been able to sleep. It's like you want to sleep some more, you're not satisfied. It's because you didn't get your melatonin, you didn't get your growth hormone. There's no repair in your body. Your body's still, where's the dirt? The dirt is still there. It's not been cleaned up. I've not been able to repair myself. So you're tired. So you must go to bed early.
Right. So there's truth to the old saying, early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy.
Wealthy and wise.
Maybe not always wealthy, but certainly
wise.
Healthier. Yes. So we mentioned on some of the other shows, Dr. Sherry Lou, about vitamin D. And now this has been, the lack of it has been implicated in many, many different health issues. Is it an issue with cervical cancer?
Oh, for all cancers besides. Vitamin D enhances the immune system. Vitamin D helps all your organs recover faster. You know, it's an essential vitamin in every cell, the same way as you know, all cells. We thought initially that vitamin D was only for bones, but it is more. Much more for cancer. You have to have your vitamin D not lower than 50. Somebody said 60. So that would be really helping in making your immune system work.
So supplementation would be needed.
Sunshine is always
cases.
better. Sunshine is better.
Okay.
Although if you need it stat now, then you can do the vitamin D supplementation.
Okay, wonderful. Now, is there any other aspect to having cervical cancer that you can advise the ladies on that may be out there that have got a diagnosis? Maybe you can give them an encouraging testimony. Somebody who's just got a pap smear back and it's abnormal, they're at a certain stage where they're not sure what's going to happen.
Oh, trust in God first and foremost and follow His laws.
And I do believe you had a lady with a stage 0 cancer that she followed the lifestyle program you've been describing and she got results.
Yes, she got well.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Sherry Lou. We hope you've been blessed by the information. Please remember that God is in control of your healing program.